Hey, Scuttlebutt listeners. Welcome to episode 241. This week, we bring you another installment of Semper Cinema with our review of the 1970s made-for-TV movie Tribes. Full disclosure, we chose this movie because we wanted to break from the Semper Cinema paradigm and veer a bit off our normal course to go with the movie we knew was less than stellar. And Tribes does not disappoint. Aired as the ABC Movie of the Week, it's basically a boot camp movie starring Jan Michael Vincent of Airwolf fame and Darren McGavin, probably most famously known for playing the dad in A Christmas Story. And although we have our criticisms, it did well, earning 3 Emmy Awards and ranking as the number 8 boot camp movie by Screen Junkies. Tribes clearly influenced some of the more significant Marine Corps movies of the 80s and 90s, but for us, it mostly influenced us not to recommend portraying Marine Corps boot camp in a made-for-TV format. But as always, we have fun with it. This is episode 241.
Hello, audience. Welcome back to another episode of MCA Scuttlebutt, where we're doing a Semper Cinema installment. I have here with me Nancy.
Hey, William. How you doing?
Oh, I'm good in the hood, except for when we start talking about this movie. And Vic, how about you?
Hey, I'm great, thanks.
Well, the film we are discussing today is the 1970 movie titled Tribes. It depicts a Marine Corps boot camp experience through a 1970s lens. It was directed by Joseph Daniel Sargent, a World War II veteran who was in the Army and fought in the Battle of Bulge. He also directed films such as White Lightning, MacArthur, Nightmares, Jaws, The Revenge, and the original version of The Taking of Pelham 123. This was...
You're gonna just go. You're diving in at the deep end of the Semper Cinema pool.
You kick off the Amazon review.
Well, let's just say if you wanted to find the DVD of this film on Amazon, you wouldn't because it was never made for DVD. It was VHS, and then we watched this for free on YouTube. So the fact that we didn't have to pay to watch this film.
We paid.
Well, yeah, we paid in time. So
You guys are so cynical.
Well, if I can really quick before we kick
Go for it, Vic.
So, and I want to give a shout out to you, William. This was your brainchild. And so for our regular listeners, when we do Semper Cinemas, we generally try to dive into movies that are of value. And we'll get into more about this movie in particular, but the genesis of why we were watching Tribes is that William had this, I thought it was a great idea, is, hey, rather than like teeing up a real movie about the Marine Corps themed, and then doing, like, why don't we just automatically just tee up a shit movie?
Exactly.
And then our editor-in-chief, Woody, then said, because we threw around a couple ideas, and then he just said Tribes. You have to do Tribes, and none of us had ever heard of it. We all just like glazed over, like, what is, and so here we are now. We had all have watched Tribes, and
all right. So
wait a minute. Can I just say though?
Yeah.
Also, the theme is interrupting William, but I think maybe we trauma bonded over the watching of this movie, right?
We'll see.
I will say, well, I'll get into my part, but I will say initially I was kind of excited because I'm a huge fan of the movie Christmas Story, and the main, senior drill, or the drill instructor,
right, Darren McGavin,
which I love.
It was startling though,
and it was honestly, it was still hard for me to remove. Like, all I could think of the whole time was, it's a major award.
Yeah, for a G.
Yeah. Well, usually I like to ask y'all your opinions first, but I'm in the mood for just really expressing myself.
Go for it, man.
Amazon review. The dad from Christmas Story attempts to recreate the intro to what's that film, the Vietnam film with
Full Metal Jacket.
Yeah. So the dad from Christmas Story tries to recreate the beginning of Full Metal Jacket, but takes an hour and 15 minutes too long to do so. 1.5 out of 5 stars. That 1.5 comes from the fact that there is actually quarter decent acting, especially from Darren McGavin, who plays the dad in Christmas Story, also the lead drill instructor, and Jan Michael Vincent is convincing in his role, and that's the grace that I will give this film. I mean, it's a 1970s Vietnam era depressing hippie, just schlock, trying to...
It was made for TV, too. It's
TV
important
movie.
to state that, which is a very...
1970s TV, too.
Yeah.
So
you're talking 3 channels.
And PBS, so 4.
Okay, and it was probably, I don't know. Anyways, yeah.
And basically, my criticism is this is the type of film that a 14-year-old watch and would think it's really deep. It tries. I think I see where what it's trying to do, and there's, I think, legitimacy behind it. The director was a World War II veteran himself, and it was written during one of the most controversial military actions in American history. That being said, it just falls so flat.
Yeah.
It is dull. It is also they left out the part of the movie where every little soldier who listens to the hippie guy's advice, goes off to Vietnam and dies because they took his just terrible, just BS. Look to the east, hippie.
Yeah.
Bullshit. I owe my wife $5. Where it's just like, this is just this
Swear jar money, by the way, for anyone who isn't tracking why he owes $5. That wasn't just a random.
He's not putting in a breakfast order with Uber
just
right now.
Questioning everything about Westerner civilization. But look, if we just follow this hippie dude and just pretend like we're not suffering, oh my goodness, well, everything's be great and he would be a leader. Like, no, this is just it's one of those films where the bad guy, the Master Sergeant Frank DePacer, or whatever I pronounce his name, is like actually just secretly the good guy because he actually understands what it takes to make and fold Marines. And then the dad from Christmas Story, he's washed up, he's getting older, he's getting softer, and you need this nice young hardcore drill instructor to really whip him into shape. Yeah, again, it's a movie. It encompasses the era, but I also hate aspects of the era that it tries to encompass.
So I'm probably the lone person in the room who didn't hate the movie, and I've been trying to figure out what it is about the movie that I didn't hate, or that made me like it. And I think I've come to this conclusion that I was born in 1970, and so that movie felt very I had a huge amount of nostalgia watching it. The way it was, the color, the tones, some of the themes. Not that I grew up in any kind of hippie household, because like in my house we weren't really even supposed to talk about Jane Fonda.
Your dad was a Submariner, right?
Yeah.
And you're not talking about Hannah or Jane.
Yeah. Oh my.
Yeah. That's not allowed.
But where was I going with that? Oh, it felt very nostalgic to me.
Yeah.
And
the cars and
it just the music, the feel, all of it. And so I think that was why I didn't hate it the way you guys did. And as I was saying
before, how many stars though? First off.
Yeah, stars.
Oh God. I have to give it stars now. Now I have to put my money where my mouth is.
It's an Amazon review.
Yeah.
Okay, so
I'm
gonna give it 2.5 stars with this caveat that it has merit if you want to understand the time period and if you want to take a look at what media of that time. Yeah. And I did not have the same issues you had regarding, hey, this is Full Metal Jacket done poorly with the dad from A Christmas Story, because again, that era that the movie was made is more my era, so right. I was able to separate it.
So if you ever need a reason to go back in time and hate boomers even more, just watch Tribes.
Well, and as I was saying before we started recording, I'm married to a boomer, and when he heard me watching the movie, he was just like, what is that? What movie is that? And I told him, he was like, oh my God, I remember that movie. And he did not, he was not a fan of the hippie character. He said, he was a very patriotic kid, grew up in a more patriotic.
Air Force veteran.
Yeah. Grew up, his dad was a World War II and Korean War veteran. So my husband associated more with the DIs than, he's like, you can't have hippies like that, and you can't have that in that kind of situation. Like, okay, thanks.
Yeah, I'm reassured by the fact that at the end of the film, the hippie character does, desert and makes it to Canada and hopefully never gets to step foot in the United States ever again, except for, Clinton pardoned all those
Did he pardon all
the
draft
draft dodgers, right? So he was probably allowed back in the country in the 1990s. But at that point, hippieism has died. So
I don't think it's died.
well, anyways, Vic.
Okay, so mine is, from an Amazon review standpoint, I would probably give it a star.
Okay.
But at the same time, sort of echoing a little bit of both of what you said, is that I hated it, but at the same time I didn't. I guess I'll lead off with the good. I thought the performances were really good.
Mm-hmm.
For me, as a child post-Vietnam, I think my first real sort of tactile experience with anything that had to do with Vietnam, other than obviously my family that fled, was First Blood. So it was always my understanding of the
That
Vietnam.
sounds like a movie we should have watched instead of this one right here.
We could just do it, yeah.
We'll just change the discussion and talk about Rambo first.
But it was always very gritty. And so looking back on this was so not. But I will say, all that was my first exposure to Jan Michael Vincent was Airwolf.
Yeah.
Fucking A, that was amazing. And so to see him in this role, like you said, I thought he played it extremely well. He and Darren McGavin, I just love everything about Darren McGavin. Because also he was the dad in Billy Madison. I mean, dude,
I've never seen Billy Madison.
Oh my God! All right, so we're gonna stop the recording and then Nancy's gonna watch Billy Madison. But yeah, he plays the dad in that, and so he plays the dad in Christmas Story, and then so when I saw him immediately, I was like, oh yeah, this is gonna be so great. But yeah, I couldn't remove Christmas Story from his character. So even though his performance was very good, he was still. Like, I'm just waiting. Like I said, he's waiting for him to say major award.
Yeah.
So where I draw a ton of criticism, and again, it's interesting to hear both of your perspectives. A child of Marines, a child of the era, and spouse of a service member, but so for me, it was all technical. I'm looking at this just going,
yes.
What a fucking abortion. And the fact is I know when I looked it up, the Marine Corps didn't officially endorse it, but I mean, they're at MCRD, at Camp Pendleton. So there was clearly Marine Corps. I mean, the pugil stick, all of the evolutions, the grinder, all of the stuff was clearly, they had technical advisors there really, working this out. And so it wasn't just this ham-fisted sort of, hey, we're going to do a boot camp thing. I mean, they tried to do their best, and they were on location at all these Marine Corps stuff. And so to see how it diverts, and I have a ton of notes on the things, but yeah, that was my biggest thing looking at it just from a technical standpoint. I couldn't buy into whatever they were trying to do because technically it was so off. I guess just to highlight a couple, like the recruits saying give me a break. Yeah. I remember even at OCS, the first time somebody said man, he got lit the fuck. There's no it's this recruit. They're calling him Private.
Yeah, that
calling him Adrian on the range.
Jumped out at me too.
Like that, and I get that you're supposed to see the evolution of the Darren McGavin character, seeing the recruits as being more human than. But
the interactions with the chaplain were off too.
Yeah, and I get and another thing too about this that I thought was really interesting is 1970 you still had troops in Vietnam engaged in combat operations. I mean, we're years away from the fall of Saigon, so for them to show this really rose-colored glasses, it looked more like a hard summer camp than boot camp. And so I get it was made for TV, but that struck me. Also, those damn recruits had so much time on their hands. So all of your criticisms about everybody adopting the hippie culture stuff were valid. For me, from a technical standpoint, it's so incongruent to no recruits get that much damn time off to where they can start talking about hippie mindset and living in a commune and
meditating.
Or have a pillow fight after hours.
Yeah, pillow fight. That was ridiculous. He has this. He totally breaks down, but then they have a pillow fight, and then
and no one ever addresses that breakdown or there's no. It doesn't go. It's a. thread that goes nowhere.
Yeah, and like
that was
how like
frustrating.
after one quote unquote evening of doing mindfulness meditation, now all of a sudden
they're experts.
You're experts at it, and they can just they can withstand whatever thrashing they get from the DIs. And also too, there's no single DI; it's always 3. Do you have one senior and 2 heavies, a black belt and a green?
They didn't have a big enough budget for 2 others.
I guess. Well, you mean they even in Full Metal Jacket, even though the focus was on obviously the senior, they still showed.
They had a bigger budget.
It's like waking up in the morning was never just like, hey, get out of here, like get the oh man, like they didn't do fire watch. Another thing, like he just stumbles in on his buddy, like attempts to attempt suicide. Like, see, there's fire watch, man. Like, they show, but there are scenes, and cinematically, and from a choreography standpoint, you can definitely see, because this came out before way before Full Metal Jacket. There are parts of it that looked, and I don't know if Kubrick watched this or not, but there were similarities enough to where it's like, holy shit,
yeah.
Like this was an influential
had to
movie
be
for people trying to depict the Marine Corps boot camp.
It had to be. Also,
I wanted to give it 0, but I mean, there are aspects of it that are good. But yeah, let's get into some of the other stuff, like who's the audience and what they were trying to say, because I thought that's...
Yeah, we could definitely dig into this a little more, but I think we'll answer those questions by answering the questions about to ask. So first off, we talked a little bit about this. Who was this made for? It was obviously made for TV, 1970s, but who's going to sit down and watch this movie?
So I guess...
Well, there was nothing else to do.
Yeah, so there's 3 channels.
And there's 3 channels.
Well, you could drink.
Which, back then was 18, so there was plenty. But yeah, I wondered this as I was watching it because of everything we'd already mentioned. We still have troops in Vietnam engaged in combat operations. But I don't know, and I didn't do enough of the research here on how many movies there were about boot camp, and so I wondered if this were a recruiting tool to a generation that they see as getting away from the boomer stuff that is so anti-establishment in that way, that like, hey, you can be a hippie and still succeed here. I don't know if they were. That was one.
But he didn't.
He did. He did very well. Remember?
Yeah, but then he
did. But
okay,
the institution
that's true.
was ready to adopt him. I mean, they graduated him. Other than unking in the range, they were talking about how well he was doing. Like, he scored so well on all the academics, even though he was a high school dropout. He wasn't fazed by the hazing rituals and routines. He was a PT stud. And that was another thing that I thought that they missed out on is that, usually when you have and in boot camp it's different than OCS. OCS, you're drinking from a fire hose on becoming a leader. And in boot camp, they take, a lot of times it's the most physically fit recruit that ends up being the guide. I mean, if you can handle the PT and you can do what they say, you move up into, quote unquote leadership positions as the guide and stuff like that. And they didn't do that so much here. So again, I'm not sure who they were getting at. I'd have been interested to see, was this a daytime movie? I saw that it won some daytime Emmys, so I'm thinking it wasn't a primetime showing.
Oh, good question. I don't know.
So that would be another thing too, because if it was primetime, maybe they're trying to reach to the people who are anti-war or whatever, or they're trying to reach to a more adult audience. If it's daytime, maybe it is sort of a recruiting thing for kids. It'd be interesting to see when it plays.
I'm gonna have to take a hard swing at that claim you made there. I don't think this was intended for those who would be looking at the military as a prospective future.
Okay. It's just a criticism.
It's 100% a criticism in the way that's from the story that it tells. And because you see at this time during the 1970s, there's obviously this very big culture war going on in the United States between the more, pretty much as it is today, left, right, ideas of masculinity, ideas of patriotism. And so this comes front and center in this particular film. And what I don't know much about the director's background. As I scroll through his Wikipedia, it doesn't really go much into his beliefs or politics, just his short cinematic career. But judging how he portrays the boot camp experience in the Marine Corps and the characters he chooses, and the fact, there is this very on the one side you have the hippie guy, one side you have the extreme hardcore drill sergeant, and in the middle you have the dad from Christmas Story. I'm just stuck in the middle, who's in some ways embraces aspects of both, because he does have his creative drawing birds as his peaceful outlet, but he's also a drill sergeant. And so it's sort of him in the center, which I guess put sort of where a lot of Americans maybe see themselves, and they look at both sides. And what I think the director's trying to emphasize is that almost like this idea that you hear around every few years, like the kids are all right. You'll see some kids do something, depending on where you lay on the political spectrum, either incredibly brave and standing up for goodness, or incredibly stupid. These are just a bunch of troglodytes out there, protesting for some stupid BS after school. So it seems like this director is saying there is a strength and a masculinity that this hippie movement offers. And because in the end, I mean, the character the actor who plays him is a younger, hotter, sexier Hollywood guy compared to the older drill sergeant who's angry and who we're told to basically he's the antagonist, essentially. So the protagonist is obviously the young hippie guy. The guy in the middle is sort of who we're seeing this experience, the lens through. And so the director is trying to make an argument about masculinity and patriotism in this very heated, I'm beating my fists together for the audience who can't see us, in this very heated cultural environment that is the 1970s.
Interesting.
I agree with William. I
Okay.
do not think that this was intended to portray patriotism or military service as a good thing. Maybe it wasn't anti-patriotic, but it certainly wasn't pro.
But I mean, and just a question for you. So knowing that a lot of folks are going to be drafted that have these, misaligned views or views that aren't coherent with the idea of patriotism and like an enthusiasm for the war effort, you don't think that this is offering sort of a way for them to accept it? Okay.
I do not.
Okay.
Because if that were, in my opinion, if that were the case, the ending would have gone a different way. Mm-hmm.
Which another technical thing is like, oh yeah, he went over the hill. Like,
at first I was like,
what the
does
fuck
that
you
mean he
talking
died? I don't know. What does that mean?
Did he, no, over the hill would have been you going to the airport.
I did look that up. That was slang for deserting. Okay. So either he flew out or.
So that was a slang term.
Yeah, it was a slang term.
I also didn't like the. Yeah, I don't think the ending supports. For me, it doesn't support it being. Anything other than anti-draft, anti-war. Side note, though, I do want to say that I don't think that the actor Darren McGavin aged one day from the time he made this movie until in the early 80s when he made...
I think he was born grizzled like that.
That's just how he looked. But for me, like I said earlier, the whole thing... It just has like this wash over the film, this light yellow wash over it, and it hit such a huge nostalgia button for me that all those very early memories I have from 1973, 1974, 1975, like. They're all at the front of my mind now because that movie just felt so much of its time.
Yeah. So let's sort of pick into the reasons why we think this film, not necessarily even agree or disagree with the message, but why it sort of fell flat. Vic, let's go into some of the other inaccuracies or or issues you had.
Yeah, I think I've beat the horse to glue on the technical aspects of it. But I think one of the things I struggled with was I had a really hard time grabbing onto any sort of narrative. The tension seemed very forced. Wasn't organic. So, like you said, the Master Sergeant had to be way over the top, and the hippie had to be way over the top on their alignment as far as protagonist, antagonist. It didn't seem organic to the characters per se, and it could be because for me the environment was so poorly represented. The environment that it was hard to really grasp. But I didn't really see any tension. So they tried with the ROTC guy who then tells them, hey, we don't want any, dipshits in our unit, right? But that's not how you talk. Like, recruits don't talk about their boot camp platoon as, this is our unit. We don't want it. And then also, too, they didn't show enough of them struggle, I didn't think. And there wasn't a Private Pile sort of foil to the Joker, to use the Full Metal Jacket reference, where other than the main characters, I thought everyone else was very poorly developed, and so I didn't get the tension. I thought it was just way too. They're trying to shoehorn in a drama that just didn't really exist because everybody was the same, with the exception of these one or two characters.
Well, and there were all these little sort of vignettes that didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'm like, what's the point? Like, what was the point of any really?
Yeah, and it didn't seem like I really cared what happened to any of the characters.
Right, I didn't care.
Like the one who tried to kill himself, I'm like, oh. I mean, so
like
far,
which guy was that again?
It's also like
you sort of get a thing because he's like, I'm constantly sick. They call him a sick bay commando or whatever. But I mean, he didn't really seem to struggle other than when he would tell you that he's struggling.
I'm struggling. Yeah, it's one thing that I think that struck out to me is why this partly falls flat is like how they portray drill instructors, because from my understanding, I have as someone who's never been to boot camp, they're pretty much around you.
24/7.
So they're not having time to like they're and talking to some of my friends who are drill instructors, Dennis DeMille and George Van Orden, they're exhausted when boot camp's over because they're doing everything they're doing, plus they have to do it better. And so it's not like they're standing up late and playing pool and talking and drawing. No, it's like they're asleep because they also have to get up in 5 hours.
And they're working on what the POI is for the next, moments. And especially, like I said, because you have three of them, usually one of the heavies is like a brand new he's a brand new drill instructor. And so he's learning and they're teaching him on the side, like, hey, this is your first class. I had a buddy who went through MESEP, and we must have been at a school together, but we were young lieutenants, and he was, I think he was a staff sergeant when he went MESEP. But anyhow, when he was a drill instructor, his first class was just shaving. And he made the mistake of saying you have to shave all the hair off your face when he was giving the class. And so all of a sudden, as he was inspecting, he was like, wait, something's weird. And then he realized they shaved all the hair off of their face. They had no eyebrows. and which is hazing, right? And so he's like, oh my God, like my first class, I'm already going to get fired. And so it was stuff like that where you're always learning. And so, there was never, I'm going to shoot the shit with the chaps and play pool. And like, hey, I'll tee you up. They're constantly working on their craft 24/7. Like you said, it is grueling. It is grueling to be a DI. And like you said, so when I actually noted in my thing, like when the way they were describing Motivation Platoon, I'm like, that's boot camp. Like what they're just that's the actual boot camp part. Like where they're gonna yell at you all the time and you never have a moment to yourself. Like so anyways, yeah. So but yeah, that was my big thing is I didn't really understand what the purpose of even the story. Like where was the story?
Do you agree with that? Yeah. And just as we've been talking, I've been thinking it through. Do you think that it's possible that the point wasn't necessarily to be anti-military or anti-Marine Corps or pro-hippie, but maybe to be anti-draft? That perhaps you get a better result when you have an all-volunteer force?
I don't think it would be sophisticated enough to make that argument.
Am I giving it too much
I think
credit?
you are giving it too much credit.
I'm still looking through my 70s glasses.
Yeah, the anti-draft was very much tied into the anti-war movement. They were hand in hand. You necessarily wouldn't be able to separate it from that.
But at the same time, too, I think we were just at that stage in American culture, like the idea of an all-volunteer force really, I don't even think was on anybody's, like, in the conscious.
I'm grasping here, right?
Yes. You're looking back,
through my hippie glasses,
yellow tinted lens.
I was never a hippie.
Well, yeah, I mean, you were born in.
What do you think of the like story or?
I mean, you don't get the intensity that you would imagine. Again, as someone who's never been to boot camp and has only seen it through documentary and other films' lens. You never get the intensity that you would expect from it. The drill instructor, for me, again, as we just talked about. One thing also that struck me is how lenient they were during the live fire portion training. When first off, no one's gonna be coddling you when you're sending rounds down range, and then the bad drill instructor takes the weapon off, immediately flags everyone, and then takes some shots, and it just I could never buy into the fact what I'm seeing is actually an attempt to portray reality. They were trying to tell a story that just.
Yeah, well,
I couldn't immerse myself in it.
In that environment, there is part of the POIs. They lower the temperature on the hazing package, obviously, because you're dealing with live ammunition. And so I thought Full Metal Jacket did a good job of showing that, where still very gruff. There's no personal relationship there, but he does say, like, hey, damn, Joker, maybe we are going to make you into a Marine. You know, like, there is a more they just lower the temperature on it because they don't want all these stressed out guys with live ammunition, you know.
What could go wrong?
But you're right. I noticed that too. As soon as he picks up that weapon, he flags the line. I'm like, this is the. Yeah.
But yeah, I feel my issue again. Summarizing my issue with the film is it tries to tell a sophisticated, complex story, and it ends up doing it so clunkily where it. Again, even if I agree or disagree with the message it's trying to tell, it just does it in such a clunky way where you're never engaged, you're never engrossed, you never feel like a part of it. It's just
right.
Yeah, it's flat.
Yeah, it's totally flat. I will say one other thing we had mentioned about. So they start the movie with the haircut thing, which is how they started Full Metal Jacket too.
Interesting, right?
Yeah. So that's really cool.
Yeah. So,
what do you think? Well, I mean, we talked a little bit about the story. So, like, what do you think the purpose of it? Not necessarily who the audience is, but like, as they're storyboarding and as they're doing the screenplay. Like,
I don't know because
he's like, yes, I nailed it, or are they just like, oh, we're just gonna do a boot camp movie?
I don't know. Again, as we've been sitting here, I've been trying to figure out like what was the purpose? What was the filmmaker's purpose for this movie? Who was it supposed to be for, and
What's
why?
The narrative, yeah.
And it had so many little like threads again that went nowhere. I'm for sure having trouble separating out, and I keep saying this word, but I am having trouble separating my personal nostalgia for, really being able to critically look at this film.
Yeah. There was a lot of times here where I'm like, where are we like in time and space right now? Because they're all of the evolutions were kind of like almost like they filmed all of the scenes like all with the settings at the same time and then just cut and pasted them into different parts of the. Because, like, for example, like when he goes, you need to go to the PX, like you're not supposed to spend your free time here. I thought he meant, like, on base, but then he's, like, cruising around Oceanside.
Yeah, that was very confusing for me.
And so I'm like, oh, he must have graduated. They just did a time jump here. Like, oh, no, it's not graduation yet.
I thought maybe that was just me. Yeah, I got super confused about that. Yeah. Like, what is he doing?
Where are we?
Where
are
understand.
We in time and space right now?
And how did he even leave base not in his uniform? How did that happen?
No, he did. He sold it, remember, at the...
Right, but I'm. Oh, right.
And he goes, like, let's
that's
go
right.
buy
You're
your
right. You're right.
uniform back.
That's right.
But I'm like, what?
And I just looked up. This was a production company. Is 20th Century Fox Television, aired on ABC. So why do they buy into this?
Yeah.
I guess they're trying to get some of that sweet, sweet counterculture money, but
Maybe. Which it is sweet. But
oh yeah.
I don't know. All right, well, let's
How did he even get a draft notice living on a hippie commune?
well, no, but he left it, right? And then he was going to leave to go to Canada. I don't know. Again, the characters are very poorly crafted. So
I've never lived on a hippie commune. I don't know how
he
mail
didn't
works
like
there.
it, apparently. He said there's too many tourists that were showing up.
I guess those are in the era when if you did have one of those things, then every
Yeah, he
Tom,
clearly was
Dick, and
getting
Harry
mail,
who was into the hippie movement would, or were trying to get into it, would be essentially what modern day LARPers we would call them essentially. But to our dear audience, if you feel so inclined to blow an hour and a half of your life that you'll never get back, ever.
If you're a Darren McGavin fan, you almost have to at least watch some of it.
Sure.
Because it's fun to see him as a DI.
Sure. You can watch it for free on YouTube. Just type in Tribe 1970.
Yeah, I did Tribe Jan Michael Vincent.
I'm curious now about what the how it's going to affect my algorithm on YouTube.
Yeah, no, that is going to be weird.
What I'm going to start getting served.
It can't make mine any worse. Well, thanks all for tuning in for the episode of Semper Cinema. And stay tuned. We'll have another one coming up real soon, hopefully.
Real, R-E-E-L.
Real.
R-E-E-L soon, baby.
And if you have ideas for us about what you want us to review.
Yeah, or a movie that you like. Yeah.
And if it's trash, I'm going to come and find you.
And if you suggest Aliens, you get a bonus because that's the one I'm really pushing for.
Of course.
Space Marines.
We don't have to. We could do that just because we want to.
You can watch Aliens,
We
Vic.
can do that.
We can do what we want. Right?
And we can go to lunch and talk about Aliens and not record it.
All right, y'all.
Bye.
Some say that freedom is forged, not given. I don't know. I think there's some value there. I think there's some valuable insight.
I would agree.
It's not just something that you're going to get. You have to work towards it. I know one of the Marine Corps' big things, one of the ad campaigns was steel forges steel.
Forged in steel, yeah.
There's a lot of parallels with metalwork, apparently, in American and Marine Corps. In our legacy.
Go figure.
Yeah, you gotta take something that's, a valuable material, and then you heat it and melt it and make it malleable, and then you can then turn it into something. And I think one of the things we do oftentimes, especially for those who are outside of the service now, is we find that the self-motivation to do that starts to wane, especially as I'm staring at 50 now. It's not so easy for steel to forge steel.
Yeah, no, I'm way beyond 50.
Well, here's an idea then. Here's one way, especially when...
How can I motivate myself, Vic?
So
what do you think?
I think one of the things we can look at is as we're trying to heat things up, especially, we're coming out of this crazy bomb cyclone thing here. We've got to heat things up a little bit. We've got to become malleable. We got to start turning ourselves into something. We're already valuable. We just need to shape it and make us worth something. And one way you can do that is you can take on the Forged in Freedom 250 challenge offered by the Marine Corps Association Foundation. And to do that, you can complete 250 miles.
Oh, yeah? How do you do the 250? Do you have to run? Because I don't like to run.
Well, you don't have to run. There's a myriad of ways. You could run if you're, that's freaking badass. Or if you're like Sergeant Major Justin LaHue, you could walk it.
Yeah.
You could bike it.
Yeah.
You could swim it. You can row it. As long as you're doing something that is physically exerting and that takes you a distance. So, you can, I would love to be able to bench 250 pounds. That would be awesome. It's not a qualifier for this.
Oh,
I should
okay.
still do that.
Okay.
But if you want to participate, you better run, walk, bike, swim, row, in any of those combinations, or one of them individually between March 3rd and July 4th.
Okay, so how do I register for this?
Okay, very great question. So if you go to mca-marines.org/MCA events, that's EVENTS, MCA events, /category/foundation-events.
That's a lot.
That is a lot.
That's
That's a mouthful. But you could also just text America's 250 to 41444.
Awesome.
That's America's 250 to 41444.
That is very cool. And how am I going to prove to people that I did this? If I do this, that's a big if. I don't know if I'm going to do. Yeah, I'm going to give it a shot. How do I prove it?
Well, give it a shot, and not only will you be forging your own steel, but you'll be able to get a keepsake of that forged steel in an exclusive commemorative coin.
Love a coin.
Yeah.
I love a coin. Okay.
So once you register, I think it gives you all of the sort of accountability. I mean, quite honest, I think it's honor system. But, don't shortchange yourself. This is about, I mean, obviously the coin is amazing. But, it's about, again, steel forging steel. It's about about not just taking on something, but appreciating it and working towards it. Remember, freedom is forged, not given.
Okay. And it's
just like this coin is not given. It's got to be earned.
Okay, and it's called the Forged in Freedom 250 Challenge,
That's
right?
Right.
Okay.
In honor
Awesome.
of America's, 250th birthday.
I love it. Sounds good.
Awesome. See you on the road. Scuttlebutt is a production of the Marine Corps Association. You have heard the voices or contributions from Major Vic Rubel, USMC retired, Nancy Lichman, William Truding, and our guest. Ty Frazier is the editor, sound engineer, and technical producer. The Marine Corps Association is not an agency of the U.S. government. The opinions expressed in this episode are the personal views of the participants and do not reflect the official position of the United States Marine Corps, the Department of Defense, or the Marine Corps Association.